Hey gang, what's up? Welcome back to another edition of Intuitive Angling, and thank you guys very much for checking out today's video, much appreciated. And guys, today we're going to be talking about an August jerkbait pattern that is a really good way to catch numbers of fish, catch a lot of fish, actually August and September. And actually we've touched upon this a little bit in some past videos as far as warm water jerkbait patterns, but specifically what I want to talk to you, I want to get into some more detail on how to do this time of year. Fishing a jerkbait like the Megabass Vision 110 in the super hottest time of summer, because right now guys, our water temperatures are sort of maxed out everywhere around the country. We got 90-degree water temperature here in Missouri, and a lot of people don't associate jerkbaits with warm water fishing, but there is a couple different ways it's really good to catch them. And I'm going to get into two different techniques and two different patterns to catch them. You guys may have heard some of this before, but maybe not to this detail. So anyway guys, the time frame when this really works good is it's sort of like from mid-August to the early part of September. It works from when the temperatures on the lake, as far as the water temperatures, are maxed out until when they very first start going down, because normally by like the first or second week of September, we start having a little bit cooler nights, maybe not a lot, it can still be hot, but you're starting to see like a 1 to 2 degree drop consistently in the water temperature over the course of that period. And there's that 3 or 4 week window when this pattern I'm going to talk about is really effective. So what we're talking about is fishing the jerkbait around wave breaks and floating docks, those two type of things. Now, almost every lake in the country has got some cover like this, because even if you have a lake that doesn't have a lot of docks on it, there's always marina docks, and most on every marina there's a wave break out in front of those marinas. And the wave break, it can be made out of tires, it can be made out of metal, whatever, but so many marinas have a wave break to protect that marina from, waves going in there. And if you have a lake that has a lot of floating docks on it, which like we do here in Missouri, here on Table Rock or Lake of the Ozarks, wherever you guys fish in Texas at Lake Travis, there's floating docks everywhere. This is another really good pattern to use on that. So we've talked a little bit about this before, but I want to get specifically in some techniques, the way you can really generate the strikes better from this. First of all, I don't think there's a better jerkbait to use than just the old standby, the Megabass Vision 110 or the 110 Silent, which is this. A lot of times I prefer the Silent one, because one of the good things about fishing the silent jerkbait around docks is if you got a jerkbait that has rattles in it or has a balancer that goes back and forth, the noise, it reflects and like bounces off of that metal structure on the seawalls. And a lot of times that's a little bit too aggressive for the fish. So I found out sometimes, especially on the bright days with not much wind, they prefer the jerkbait that doesn't have the sound in it. So that's when I like the 110 Silent model here from Megabass. I'll also put the Baitworks link in the description if you guys want to get some of them. So first of all, here's what you have to understand when you're fishing docks and wave breaks with the jerkbait. Number one, it's about casting accuracy and how the fish are positioned on these particular structures. And a lot of this has to do with the water clarity, because if you've got a wave break or a dock that's in pretty clear water, like say for example, 3.5 or 4 foot of visibility or clear, you're going to have these fish, they'll suspend around the wave break or the dock, but a lot of times they're not tucked up right against it. A lot of times they are, but a lot of times they aren't. If you have clear water, you have a better odd of catching fish out away from those areas, because the shad will move in and out of these areas, and a lot of times the fish, even though they're suspended around this, they'll chase those shad and they roam a little bit more. And another thing is these wave breaks and docks, a lot of them have cables out off the sides and the front of them. And in the summertime, these fish will relate to those cables. And sometimes those cables will go 15 or 20 foot out away from the dock or the seawall. So the first thing I like to do, let's say if I'm coming up on a marina dock or a seawall or something like there, I always fan cast all around the perimeter. So I don't want my cast to land right next to the dock. So I make my first pass and I cast anywhere between 5 to 15 feet away from the dock or the seawall, all the way around it. And I'm trying to pick up those fish in that clear water situation that are roaming. And after that, that's when I go back in and I'll fish tight to the dock, specifically on the shady side. If you've got water visibility that's over 3.5 or 4 feet, 99.9% of the time, those fish are going to be around whatever shady side it is. The shade can come out that far from the dock, or it can come out 10 feet, but they're always going to be around that shady side. And sometimes, like if it's cloudy and there's maybe not a lot of shade, they're always going to be on the side that has maybe a little bit of breeze blowing on it. So that's one thing to remember. Now, if the water visibility is a little off colored, say that your water visibility is anywhere between, say, 1 to 2 feet around these areas like that, this is when those fish are going to get right next to those seawalls and the docks. They're not going to be out away from them. And this is when it's super critical to be able to cast right along the edges of these things and get your bait no more than that far away from it. If you get your bait like a foot or a foot and a half away from the dock, you may never get a strike. So you've got to be really, really accurate with your cast. Try to get it as close as you can to get it come right by that dock, because those fish in that dirty water will not come out and chase that bait very far around it. Now, the high percentage areas in August and September are always on the ends of the seawalls, or excuse me, ends of the wave breaks, and on the outside corners of the dock. So my first cast when I'm fishing that in that scenario is I try to make a cast straight down the front of the dock, like the very deepest part of the dock, and I try to get as close as I can. And then I'll hit the two corners, the two outside corners. And then as I'm going past the dock, I fish it on this is another reason you need a spinning rod. I throw this on, the Megabass Whipsake spinning rod. And as I'm going past the dock, I'll flip that jerkbait with an underhand pitch on the spinning rod in the slips of the docks and on the outside edges, because a lot of times you can catch them right in those slips too. But anyway, guys, just a quick video on this. We're sitting right in the middle of the prime time for this. If you have got a lake that's got, the cover that I just talked about, I can promise you it will work. And it will work even better if you have a mixed species lake. If the lake you has some type of a mix of like largemouth and spotted bass and smallmouth, it's even better. But even if you got a straight largemouth lake, it's still going to work. So guys, give it a try. It's a good way to get numbers of fish. You may not catch very many big fish on it, but you will get some bites on it. And it's just a pretty exciting way to hit it, because normally when they hit it, they're really aggressive on it. And a lot of times, sometimes you'll pull up to a wave break and catch a limit off of one wave break. I remember I was fishing Johnny Schultz and I were fishing an on the water challenge at Grand Lake 2 years ago down there, and I didn't have a fish with like 15 minutes left in the day, and I pulled up on this one wave break. It was August with the Megabass Vision 110, and I caught a limit on one dock right in 15 minutes there. So they will school around them too. So hope it helps, guys. We'll see you.